Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the November 9th meeting of the Early Learning Board. We'll begin, as we always do, with a sharing of the mission. And Justina Acevedo Cross has agreed to share the mission with us today. Justina?
Thanks, Bob. Our mission is to support children's academic and lifelong well-being by directing and supporting the EOEL for an effective, coordinated, high-quality early learning system from prenatal to kindergarten entry.
Thank you, Justina. Actually, I'm still doing it. I couldn't hear it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. We'll begin by taking roll call of attendance to ensure that we have a quorum. Justina?
Here.
Thank you. Erin?
Here.
Iolani?
Eo, aloha kako.
Aloha. Megan? Megan? Ben?
Here.
May?
Here.
Now Peters is here. Now Pua?
Eo.
Mari?
Here.
Thank you. Carrie?
Here.
Thank you. Melody?
Aloha.
Thank you. Tanya Enrico for Director Betts.
I'm here.
Thank you. Rochelle? Steve Schatz is absent. Is Kim Gieb here? No, and Keiko for Matt Shin.
I'm here.
All right, we definitely have a quorum, so that we can move forward with today's agenda to item number 2, which is to review and approve the minutes from the October 12th meeting. Please take a few minutes to do a quick run through, and we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Aloha, this is Lenny. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. This is Erin.
Thank you, Carrie. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to vote on approval of the minutes as presented. Justina?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Iolani?
Aye.
Megan? Ben?
Aye.
May?
Aye.
Peters votes aye. Napua?
Aye.
Mari?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The minutes have been approved as presented. At this point in the meeting, we open the floor for any public comment, with a reminder that all comments have to be related to items on the agenda and are limited to 2 minutes in presentation. Are there any members of the public who wish to share comments at this point in the meeting?
Hi, I have a question, and I think I'm not sure how related it is to the agenda. I'm just curious, and I may be a little lost. From my understanding, there's supposed to be a new board, and do we know when the new board's gonna be intact for ELB, or what that may look like?
Normally we don't answer questions, but Carol, we will in this case. We do not know exactly when that will happen. It will be the model that was approved by the legislature at the end of the session, which is 3 at-large members, 3 members geographically representing Oahu, and then 1 member from each of the neighbor islands in the voting category, with some very specific qualifications related to those being nominated. Those will be nominated by the governor and have to be approved by the Senate, of course. And then the current public members will continue as they are, as non-voting, and 2 additional non-voting members, Kamehameha Schools and the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools, will be invited to join the board. But there has been no time frame. We know that applications are being accepted. We believe that the Maui fires have interrupted the ability to move forward with the appointing process, but we haven't heard that for certain. So Carol, I guess the answer to your question is we're not sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other public comment? All right, I don't see anything in the chat, correct? Yes. All right, then let's move to item number 4 on the agenda, which is the report of the Executive Office on Early Learning with their updates. And I'll turn it over to Yuko and her staff. Yuko?
Kevin, I don't have to join the audio because I can come here.
Yeah.
Okay. $364. If not, we can just give it to me, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do for everybody is in the chat. I'll put the presentation anyway because it's already linked and it's public. So it's long because if you've ever taken a look at it, aside from these minutes, these meetings, then you're gonna know that I just kind of keep everything connected there. And so it's gonna start on slide 364. So I'll write that into the chat too. Oops, sorry, not 365. So if you start on slide 364, that's where I'm going to be starting from. And then Kevin, when you're able to, then just let me know. And just so that you know, I can't see anybody. So if you have something to say, somebody else will monitor. So slide 364. So this is November. So hi, everybody. Hope you're having a good week. Slide 365, we're going to speak to health, mental health, and nutrition. And so usually when we talk about the different components of the early childhood system, we highlight activities or things that we have participated in that are related to okay. So slide 366 and so slide 366 to 369 is going to be talking about that we were invited to the Early Childhood Action Strategies All Network meeting. And how this is related to health, mental health, and nutrition is that each of those topics were addressed, and the big focus of this was really a relationship. There's a relationship building activity and looking at hope and in the presence of the navigation and what we're trying to work through. Next slide, please. Okay, perfect. And it was also about celebrating the work that's actually happening throughout the system. So next slide, please. So again, many of you who are familiar with ECAS's network, each of these teams were able to speak to the work and their updates, and there's a lot of updates, and you can find it on their website. Next slide, please. And again, how this is connected back to health, mental health, and nutrition is not only for the people that we serve, but also for ourselves. And so it was really neat to be able to have the opportunity to participate in your choice of two things. So I chose reflective supervision, and I sat in on a session that was facilitated by Inhai, and I learned about square breathing, and we actually did it with our office at our systems building meeting yesterday, because I wanted to try to put into practice something that I learned about recently. So thank you, Inhai, for sharing that strategy with me. Next slide. And this is a picture from a hike. The other thing that I chose to do was to go on the hike to Likeke Falls, and I want to thank Carrie for being the guide as we went on this journey. And what was really neat about this is to be able to connect with other people by doing something that's not work. And so some of you may recognize your colleagues or people who might look familiar with you, but I was able to walk with some folks from early intervention section, and we were talking about our work all the way up. One thing that was okay. So one thing that was neat about this connection was that I went to the workforce fair that was at the Blaisdell Center, and somebody who's in this picture came up and said hi to me. It ended up being Lane's cousin. So somebody from it's like small world, you know, like how we're all connected with each other. But it was really neat to be able to learn more about that early intervention and to be able to speak to somebody directly there in a setting that was not typically like a work setting. Next slide, please. So of course, EOEL supports family support. So next slide, please. One of the things I wanted to let everybody know is that we did release the RFP for family child interaction learning programs. And so one of the things that EOEL said is that we want to increase our capacity to, we wanted to increase the opportunity for FCIL programs across our space. And so we are currently serving Nanakuli and Kailua elementary schools. And then throughout this past year, we did have 2 more sites that expressed interest to us. And so now we're looking at these 4 sites for FCIL. So while we don't have to make a new budget request, we are expanding to these. We're trying to RFP for these sites to start in August, well, July of 2024. And so you can take a look at this. It is posted on Hands. And if you can't remember or copy this whole link, you can just search family child. Next slide, please. And we have our new employee with us. His name is Ian Okamoto. He joined us a couple of weeks ago, also with Tara Castrovinci, and she's here. She's behind me, and she's helping to facilitate this meeting. So I'd like to welcome Ian and Tara. So they both participated in the Family Engagement and Cultural Conference through Head Start. And so Ian like to share a couple of things about their time there. So you can speak now, Ian.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yuko. Yes, my name is Ian Okamoto, and I am excited to start as the Workforce Development Specialist at the Executive Office on Early Learning. This is the last day, since it is a short week, of my 3rd week on staff. And Tara and I had the benefit of just kind of hitting the ground running, and we were able to attend the Region 9 Head Start Association Conference on Family Engagement and Cultural Effectiveness that was held at the Hawaii Prince and attended from October 24th through the 27th. For those of you who may not know, yeah, it was a conference that included folks from all over. Region 9 Head Start Association provides assistance to Head Start programs in Arizona, California, Nevada, as well as the Pacific region. And I think there were attendees from other areas as well. So it was a great chance and opportunity for us to get a understanding of Head Start and kind of the larger Head Start picture. The conference was attended by the director of the Head Start office, national director. I think that he's on the other slide, Carrie Garvin, and the Head Start regional program manager, Cynthia Yao, as well as Tommy Sheridan, who's the deputy director of the National Head Start Association. So there are a number of dignitaries there. The lieutenant governor was there and made remarks at the opening session, as well as Ben. So and that was an opportunity for us, Tara and I, to introduce ourselves to Ben as well. So we really appreciate the opportunity and being able to kind of engage in that. We were able to attend the general sessions, and also we were able to select some sessions just for us to get a sense of some of the areas of work. So I attended sessions pertaining to workforce and family involvement, and Tara as well. And of note were a session regarding the challenges around bringing men into the ECE workforce, something I know a little bit about as a former kindergarten teacher. And also a session that presented a program from Colorado that successfully recruited and trained Head Start parents to join and participate as workers in the Head Start programs that their children were at. So it was just a really great opportunity to kind of get a sense of the great work that Head Start is doing and get a sense of kind of the larger picture in terms of national concerns regarding early childhood and early childhood workforce. So thanks so much, and I'm very happy to join, and I'm sure I will be participating more as we move along. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ian. Next slide. So we're gonna move into our early learning portion. So at our last meeting, there was a conversation around taking a look at the enrollment at the different sites across Hawaii. And so what we chose to do is to highlight we pulled the September and the October data from the Patches website, and we aligned it to kind of take a look at enrollment across Hawaii. And so Lane is going to be sharing about enrollment. Next slide.
Yes, next slide. So as Yuko explained, we took this from the summary that's provided at the Patch website, and so as you can see for Oahu, in September, there were 16,557 seats and total and then you can follow along. And so in the chart, the totals that we're taking from are the enrollment column at the bottom. So if you look for the Oahu box at the bottom of the enrollment column, that's the total that we're taking from. And then if you scroll across, then the number for the October, which is available right currently on the Patch site, it's 16,750. So there's a 193 positive difference. So more children are enrolled on Oahu in the month of October as compared to September. And then as you can see, following, going to your right, it's breaking out the preschool numbers. So that's the column or the row that's listed as licensed preschool. And we took the enrollment numbers for that. So as you can see that there is a 148 plus difference or increase. And then likewise, going down. Molokai goes from a total of 67 in September to 91 in October, for a difference of 24, and then the same for the preschool numbers. Kauai is 1,040 to 1,046, an increase of 6. However, if you look at the preschool numbers, that there is a decrease of 5. So 826 to 821. As you can see from the patches, the patch information, they break out the island of Hawaii from East Hawaii and West Hawaii. So likewise, we've done the same and just track the same reporting breakdown as patch. So for September, the total was 1,374. October, 1,469, which equals an increase of 95 children. And likewise,
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
No, go back. Sorry, Ron.
oh,
Go back. Okay.
oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. So West Hawaii, 1,787 to 1,805, so that's an increase of 18. And then for the preschool only, 861 to 871, which is an increase of 10.
Now next time.
Next slide now. Maui is 2,445 to 2,497, which is an increase of 52. And for preschool only, it's 1,667 to 1,699, which is an increase of 32. Lanai is 98 down to 95 in October, which is a loss of 3 children. And September for the preschool is 41 to 38 in October, for a decrease of 3. East Hawaii, 1,374 to 1,469, which is an increase of 95. For the preschool only, reporting 1,100 to 1,030, which is an increase of 30. And overall statewide, it goes from 23,368 in September to 23,753 in October, which is an increase of 385 children overall. And likewise for the preschool only breakout, it's 15,152 children to 15,152 children to 15,388 children, which is an increase of 236 children.
Okay. So we're getting some really great questions that are in this slide deck. So so if you're in the link that I attached in the chat, if you go into the comments section, you're going to see the link to where the data was pulled from the patch site. So some of you are asking, what is preschool only? So we're talking about licensed. We pulled out the licensed preschool, and so that's the site that we're looking at. So we're just looking at that line about licensed preschool. So you're correct, there could be other 3s and 4s that are in the other registered family and childcare sections and what have you, but we were just looking at, instead of trying to do like everything, we just decided to look at the overall enrollment and then licensed preschool, and that's how we formed this. But if there are feedback or another way that you think you would like to see the data, you can let me know. And somebody had a question about EOEL. So there's no EOEL in this data. This is strictly patch data.
Before I ask my question, it's okay, you let me have a question in there for you.
Mine was kind of along the lines of what everyone else was asking, like what is this data made up of? Is it licensed, or is it the enrollment, the licensed seat or the enrollment, and then did it include the EOEL? So thank you.
Yeah, so thank you. So you can see that it says licensed capacity and then desired capacity, but then it says enrollment. So the question was for enrollment. So that's the enrollment number that we used.
And then I have one question on the time frame when the data was pulled.
Mhm.
Is it possible to pull further back? Like our pre-EOEL classrooms, and then in August when EOEL opened, then we can see the difference of enrollment as well.
Yes, so we can take a look at that. So this specific report is available for current month. So we can try to look for that. Mhm.
And then one more question. Does it also take into account any school closures that have happened? And then the number of schools as well as the location in proximity to the new EOEL schools coming up?
So for this month, we chose to focus on enrollment and we did not pull data for closures or openings for this month, but we can try to pull both. I was trying to see like what is relevant or what people would want to see. And so we did the open close the last time, and then we had questions about enrollment. So we chose to focus on enrollment.
I also think we need to figure out what's the frequency that's meaningful for us to be reporting and collecting the data. Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Where are we up to see something that's really going to be informing us? So it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, to work some of those out.
Yeah.
And this may not be the time or the place, but I'll ask the question, and Chair Peters, you can redirect me. In the upcoming year for our EOEL application, would it be possible to put a question if your child had any prior preschool experience? Then that would give us the idea if they're transitioning from a community preschool or a different preschool into an EOEL city, so we can get the full context of the early learning ecosystem as we start to open up our EOEL sites.
Yeah, absolutely. So the applications as people may know, are released in March, and we are working on trying to make the application friendlier. And as well as also have the online option. And so we can definitely reformat. So can I just be clear that the question is, has your child had any prior preschool experience? And then are people interested in seeing if parents might choose to identify where?
That would be great if we could ask that.
Well, the DOE is going to be asking that, aren't they?
They do ask that at kindergarten entry,
Yeah.
but I think people are trying to see the impact of EOEL pre-K.
Yeah.
So they're going to have that. And then I think we're looking for a step prior, possibly.
Yes.
But I think what I was trying to say is that already somewhere, so
Oh, yes.
it might be a natural thing for us to do it as well. I see Carrie has a suggestion, and then Yolani has a comment. So Carrie?
Yeah, thank you, Yuko. I think this conversation is really important and appreciate that you're looking at the data, and we're all going to be thoughtful about how this rollout happens. And this is the start of it, right? Is figuring out the data. So thank you. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be helpful for the board to have this as a standing agenda item on its agenda, particularly as we are looking at 55, right? I think next year. I just think it might be helpful for planning.
Carrie, would you make the suggestion again? I didn't catch the whole thing.
Sure. So my suggestion is that we keep public pre-K expansion as a standing line item on the agenda for running board meetings.
We'll certainly take that into consideration. And Yolani, you have a comment?
Yeah, I like that idea, Carrie, so I just want to say that too. But I also wanted to just make sure that we're keeping in mind the data, and I've said this in a few other meetings, so I apologize if you're hearing this again, but the data on the impact of public pre-K, I think, is going to be really, really difficult to understand, especially if we're looking at it at a community level, because we know that there's so many factors that affect where a parent chooses to send their child. I do not think that it is only dependent on the location of where they would have gone. So I think we just need to be a little bit flexible in how we're thinking about the impact of a public pre-K opening in one zip code and impacting another zip code. I just want to acknowledge that that is very much a possibility, that public pre-Ks opening in one zip code could easily affect a decline in an enrollment for another program in another zip code for reasons that is just based on the family situation. So I want to make sure we're thinking about that. And then also really looking at the overall big picture impact of opening these public pre-Ks. And I think that we are going to see that in the decline in enrollment in programs and what typically those trends were for those private providers for many, many years that have been in existence. And is it coincidental that their enrollment is significantly dropping as we're opening these public pre-K? So I just want to bring that up and you know, not dance around the fact that it could be impacting it, even if it's not right next door, even if it's not within a mile. And then two, these families and the choices that they're, you know, where they're enrolling their children change because of where that family is with their young children. That's the time, I think, in these people's lives where their families are growing, you know, so we have these kids for sometimes a year or two. And they move on. So even the questions about have they had preschool prior, I agree we should be collecting that data, but I want to make sure we understand that that's not going to tell the full story, because it's just a tiny snapshot of that family's decisions there. So that's all. I just wanted to bring that up. Mahalo.
I think that's a really important cautionary piece, that we can't necessarily assume causation. And we have to be sensitive to the variety of potential causes or changes that occur, both growth and I think decline. So thank you, Kayavani. I think that's important for us to keep in mind. I don't see any other comments in the chat. Did you capture basically what people have suggested? Okay. All right. Then
Thank you so much for that.
thank you.
And then the next slide. So this is one of the things that I did say I was going to highlight. So I'm going to just let this sit here, as I'm sure people are taking notes and what have you, but I need to kind of speak to this slide just a little bit. So, so that people understand the process of what happened. So last legislative session, we had 55 sites that identified interest in being a part of ELB public pre-K. 11 of those sites opened up this year. And so we have 44 slots for next school year. And so when those 44 slots were identified, and then the DOE flushing of so DOE has to take a look at what kind of construction plans, for example, do they have on this campus in the next 1 to 2 years? And would it have any impact on opening up a principal's desire to have an ELB public pre-K on their campus? And so we have found that right now. So there are lots of facilities assessments and things going on. If you want to add up right here, you're going to see it's not 44. There are also ongoing facilities assessments, as everybody knows. People's attention got turned to something else for a period of time. And so we're kind of jumping back onto schedule again here, but this is what we have at the moment. And so I just kind of wanted to speak to this. So these are the sites that have identified interest and have said that their communities may need 1 or 2, and some that are not ELB public pre-K, perhaps charter, have said that they may need 3 or more. And so the data pool that ELB gets, it comes every Friday from the School Facilities Authority, and it's a new system, so we're learning to kind of have a conversation around some of these pieces. And so that's why on some of these I'm going to kind of talk to some of them. So for example, when you look here, so Nahi Ena Ena, They were identified as a potential site, but we took them off of the radar for a period of time. When I recently met with DOE leadership, they said to re-engage, and so now they're back on track. So they're now back on the list. So right here, we know anything can happen throughout the whole renovation process from right now all the way to the beginning of next school year. So these right now are the most highly likely to open in this set right here. There are some things that are like a little bit of nuanced that we have to kind of filter through with School Facilities Authority. But the leader is actually at a conference right now, so the timing is not working out too well for our conversation, but I'll give you an example. So Nanakuli Elementary School right now already has an EOEL classroom and they want to add another one. The current Nanakuli classroom was not renovated. And so I told SFA, if you're gonna do one, you have to do both. And so on SFA's roster, it says Nanakuli 2, although they're only adding one spot. And so, for example, Na'alehu right now, it says 1 on the SFA roster, but I need to double check because they already have an existing EOEL classroom. So take the numbers in stride right here, because some of these things may flux a little bit, and it may have something to do more with perhaps a project of theirs, but not ours, or it could be like both of ours. And so, but this is what we have right now and where we're looking at and how it's dispersed across Hawaii right now. And as was mentioned before, when you look to the lower on the right side, sometimes people may say like, why those spaces and what have you, but what we've been learning is that, you know, the reasons why people choose to look at certain areas, because maybe it's along a path of travel to their job, maybe it's close to work. And we know that a lot of people work like in this town area, and to try to get back maybe perhaps to someplace further away might be a little bit more of a challenge. So that is definitely something that we are taking a look at, is transit oriented choices. So here are some of the next choices that some families may choose to take advantage of. And then next slide, please. So I think I just wanted to kind of come back to like the big goal that we're all collectively striving for. So right now, while our board is still representative, this is the big shot number that we're all trying to aim for, and that EOEL was charged with. But I think with this type of representative board, there's a way that we can try to like close this task that we have before us. So by 2027, so that's only in a few years, we have to figure out how we're going to meet 50% of the currently unserved children, and by 2032, 100%. And so the bottom, that 15,388, that's how much is served in the community-based care. And I just kind of highlighted that number because it's a drop in, like EOEL and charter pre-K is like a drop in the bucket compared to the 15,000, like we're probably less than 1,000 together. And so, so how can we try to close the gap? And I think that while families may still choose to go between programs, there may be still families that are looking for a choice that are not involved in any program. And I think that that's what we also have to really pay attention to, who sits outside of opportunity at this point in time, and then how do we all collectively try to bring them in. And so again, our big number is this 50% from where we are today to the roughly 33,000 3s and 4s. And then of course, we're also looking at, you know, our little ones and our FCILs too at the same time.
I have more data
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
If possible.
Yeah.
Can we jump back to the previous slide where all the locations are?
Can you go back?
Yeah, perfect. Mahalo.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if the sites that are identified, conversation with the DOE
Mhm.
principals or the DOE setting,
Mhm.
do we also have a conversation with the community preschools located in that area to
Mhm.
see what their capacity is, what's their enrollment to ensure that that they can be sustained. As well as our Head Start programs. So I think, yeah, do we have that conversation, and how do we go about with that combo?
So I have not reached out to every community-based preschool in these settings, no. But now that it's out here, if anybody wants to host a conversation or they want to see how they can add to it or what have you, then we can do that. I think when it comes to Head Start though, I've been trying to let them know about opportunities that are available. We've been having conversations about how to increase their capacity and their enrollment. We're taking a look at some sites that are on DOE campuses, and what are some strategies that we can do to increase their enrollment to get to their funded enrollment. So we are having those conversations with Head Start.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question too, about the group on the far right.
Yeah.
And I understand the transit issue
Yeah.
and the location. But when I think about the communities that they reflect,
Yeah.
I have to wonder if we're meeting our priorities
Yeah.
that have been set in statute.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do when people apply, so one thing that's different about EOEL public pre-K that's different from the regular K-12 system is that there's no GE process for EOEL public pre-K. So you don't have to attend the school that's in your home school district, but it doesn't also mean that you get a free pass to continue into kindergarten through the system. So one of the things that we do, regardless of where any of these are, because every site that we currently have now can also receive applications from people who are not considered a priority category. And so when we receive applications, we go through all of the priority categories first. We give preference to the homeschool, and only after all of those are filled and, we're moved beyond like most likely second quarters. This is what we're trying to figure out, like a cutoff, because typically it's harder to reach certain families or, what have you. Then we can start to look at the people who don't quite qualify under priority category. So
I guess I'm really asking, are there priority categories living in these communities who will be seeking to be in these classrooms?
yeah, so we'll see, when we get the applications, but again, like it's not only people who live in those communities that are applying to those sites. So for example, like, one of our schools got applications from like Pearl City, Makakilo, Kapolei, Nanakuli, and like Waianae, like in one school. And so it's kind of interesting, I think, as we start to sift through the data in terms of where are the demographics of people who are applying to very specific sites. Some sites are much more diverse than other sites in terms of where the applications are coming from. But I think that it's going to be something interesting to take a look at.
I'm just wondering if indeed we find out it's not the kind of community that the statute says should be our priority. Does a preschool still get built in that area? Because they won't.
Good question. So right now, EOEL's, the way EOEL had kind of started to come together was basically like, who's interested in early care and education, right? And so they took those names and kind of like ranked them and what have you. It just so happens that in this set, we ended up getting funding for all. Typically in the past, EOEL did not get funding for all interested sites. And for example, like Nahi and they were actually on a list from 2020. And so they were not funded. So they've been waiting for a little bit of time. And so there are some other sites that have been waiting for a period of time and just never got funding. And only now they're able to do so. But
well, I guess it leads to a question of, if you've got the interest, but you don't have the applicants to fill
should we stay
the
there?
places to utilize the funding you have, how do you resolve that issue? So anyway, something for us to think about and have more conversation about, I think, Kate, Yolani, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, is the Nahi Ana the English medium side of the school?
So In terms of the operations of that classroom, I'm not really sure what they're going to choose to do. We just recently re-engaged with them. I just met with superintendent early last week to
Okay.
re-engage with CAS and principal. So we're not at that level yet of conversation with them.
Okay, and then the second thing that I wanted to know is, you know, during this expansion process, which I think we're kind of in the middle of while we're trying to figure it out and, you know, trying to be understanding of that situation. I know that we spent a lot of time and energy working on the roadmap. I guess it was about a year ago now. But are we at all looking at that and following what is in there? Because I know that that is what collectively we agreed on and worked through very intentionally. So where is that in what we're doing now?
So maybe one thing that I can do is, maybe one thing that we can do, since the request was for the expansion effort to be a part of the board meetings, is that maybe I can report in terms of like alignment with the roadmap, like in terms of like, so here's what the roadmap said, and maybe here's, so off at the top of my head, I'm trying to think of like how that could look or how it could be organized to be presented. But let me take a try at that, and I'll try to make that type of a connection when I report on expansion at the board meeting.
Okay, yeah, and I think, Giovanni, to be quite frank, once the Ready Keiki initiative arrived on the scene, things took off. And we haven't probably gone back and looked at the connection between the two. So a worthwhile suggestion for us to explore. Okay, Melody, you also have a question?
Yes, thanks, Bob. Thank you, Yuko. I was just wondering, because we're talking a lot about the families, the children, who is working in these classrooms? Are they all staffed, fully staffed with, you know, like early childhood people? Who is staffing the classrooms?
So these sites right here are not yet staffed because the positions will not come out. And so if we can get through all of the facilities assessments of all of the 44 before the teacher transfer period, then these positions will get posted during the teacher transfer period within the DOE system. So right now, currently in EOEL, all of the teacher positions are filled in the 48 classrooms with people who meet the EOEL guidelines. For the educational assistants, so there are some right now that, like, I think about 5 or so that do not meet the EOEL credential. So in the DOE, there's to become an educational assistant, you can have 48 university credits, or you can have a high school degree and pass the EOEL certification test with a certain cut score, and then you can become an educational assistant in the DOE. To become an EOEL educational assistant, you have to have a CDA, or you have to have the 3 courses for the CDA, or you have to be actively pursuing the CDA, and submit all of that to Office of Talent Management to get on the list to become an EOEL educational assistant. And so at some sites, there are some people, they don't understand that, like, it's, let's say I'm at a school and I'm an educational assistant somewhere on campus. Sometimes some people might think you can just shift over educational assistants because it's a position, but actually, even though I'm already employed, I would have to reapply into the Department of Education to become an EOEL EA. And so sometimes that poses like a little bit of challenge up front, but we're trying to tell people that it has a select certification.
Yes, I think I'm gonna agree with you, Lenny, and Carrie, that maybe because we're talking a lot about the workforce also, that could be something we're tracking. I know you're talking about educational assistance, but even there in the private sector, the qualified teachers may be leaving the private sector to go to the, EOEL public pre-K, if they have the qualifications. So I think it's worth tracking that too, because that's the workforce is a challenge also.
Yuko, I have a quick question. It's so interesting having this conversation because it's the same conversation we were having in 2013 when we rolled out the initial first classrooms, and trying to not supplant, but create and not disrupt what currently exists, but to add seats, right, and to add access. And it is an inherent challenge because we are a short workforce. And all of the other complicated variables that we've all talked about. I'm wondering if EOEL, I don't know how the decisions are being made between EOEL and DOE, but if the EOEL has flexibility and power to disallow supplantation of other preschool programs in the selection of applicants. So as you're getting the applicants and you are looking at the potential sites, and you know that that particular area is saturated with our community-based providers, can you disallow that applicant? Like, is that part of the criteria?
I don't know if that's part of the criteria. I'm not sure. We get our list from the Office of Talent Management, but I don't think I've never heard of the Department of Education telling certain people they cannot apply into the Department of Education. I've never heard that before.
Sorry, I don't mean workforce. I mean sites. So when you're looking at the sites to stand up the public pre-K program and you get applications from the school, are you weighing those against the, how many providers we have in that particular area and then disallowing them if it's going to supplant?
I understand. So I think my question back to the board would be, where does family choice play into the decisions that EOEL makes? So one of the things that I think about is that when I stepped into this space, people's really valued family choice. If families want to choose to be with their children, we will support them at home with their children. If families want to choose in-home care or a center-based care or a Hawaiian language program or some other program, then we value family choice. And so would we have certain criteria about disallowing a program? Because what if families want a choice that's not available in their community? Then how do we determine who gets to be in a community and not to be in a community? And I think that if that was clear, like those guidelines, then we could make some call. But even though there's 48 EOEL public pre-K classrooms on 45 campuses, there's more community schools than that. So it's not a choice in everybody's community at this point in time. So I think if the board or we all could make a common decision in terms of what choices would we like to choose to offer our families, then I think it would be able to help us make decisions too.
I think this is a huge conversation and not one we can probably have in the short amount of time of this meeting today. Let's put the family choice issue there. And Carrie, I hear what you're asking. I think we need to do some more investigation to determine if there's any legal authority to even do what's being asked. And I don't know that such a thing really does exist. So I'm going to forestall this portion of the conversation. And at this point, until we can get a little bit more clarity around what kind of authority there is, are we truly saying you may be have a pre-K in your program, or do you have the authority to say no, you cannot? I don't think we even know that. Do we?
If I can say no?
Yeah, that can EOEL say? I mean, if you didn't meet requirements, yes, okay,
Mhm.
you'd have some authority. But could you say to a community, the parents in your community want this type of program that now exists? Our addition of public pre-K may diminish the sustainability of this one. So we are not going to support the inclusion of such a pre-K. Public pre-K.
So I know that there's neighborhood board meetings, right?
Mhm.
So do we think, like, is that something that we're trying to lean towards to have? And then what would happen if some people say yes and some say no? Like, at what point do we
Yeah.
say yes or no?
But see, I think there's an even prior place,
Okay.
a prior question in my mind anyway. Does ELBL have the authority to make such a decision? Other than a school doesn't meet the qualifications to open a public pre-K according to the standards that have been set, could ELBL deny? I don't know what
Let
you
me
know.
ask. I could ask.
Let's find that out, and then back up to this other question. All right?
So the question is, can EOEL
Mhm.
deny a school who's interested in EOEL public pre-K?
Yeah.
Because of their community?
Mhm. Or what are the circumstances that allow it to happen? Unless I'm way off base here, it seems to me that's part of the question. We have to be able to figure it out before we can take up the other piece of it.
Sure.
All right?
Megan has a question. Sorry, she's been waiting for a while.
Okay, Megan, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment as I'm listening. I think that, if we're really all about school choice here, and I think we all are, somebody's earlier suggestion, I don't know if it was Carrie or someone, to have a sort of community conversation, and there are certain representative groups, as long as we have this representative board, that could be a part of that conversation about how and why and when we open schools, EOEL, schools in a given community based on many variables, either because a community school is closing or dropping in enrollment. I mean, I think it's worth having that conversation if we're really trying to do this in a data-driven way that targets parents' needs in that community. Because what I'm hearing through this conversation is that EOEL schools are opening up in places where principals have elected to start a preschool, not where the need is, per se. You can't make that, it's a false equivalency. So I just think there needs to be a little more conversation with community. There are a lot of schools that already exist in many of these places. So let's have a conversation about where that need is. Is it that more parents can't afford community schools? That might be a very real thing. So maybe there's a need for that reason. But I think without that data, we're not making these data-informed decisions. So it's just rather hard.
That was what I was seeking or trying to get at when I asked about that group to the right in this list about the need, because need and communities was the motivation for the statute. So Megan, I think that's a worthwhile thing. The analysis of why schools are closing is somewhere we're trying to get to, but which still don't have necessarily access to the information about why schools are closing. So we have to figure out ways to secure that information to build into it. We have a bigger issue here, I think, that gets added to. So let's not lose sight of it. If you can investigate, you go on the other end. And we can then consider Megan's recommendation of how do we determine where the need is and how does that relate to the expansion that's happening and the sustainability of the private sector within those areas. So a huge issue. Okay, I'm going to ask Yuko, did you have more in your report?
I do.
Yeah, I thought so. We're going to need to move on and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can come
okay.
back with conversation.
Okay, so can you go down next? Next. Okay, some other quick system updates. I'll just kind of go through this a little quickly. So we had the opportunity to take the House Committee on Education on a site visit to Fern Elementary School. This is a brand new EOEL pre-K this year, and we were able to tour the classroom, playground, interact with the students, speak to the teacher, and just, you know, principal. This is a really interesting side of a principal, really knowing and understanding his community. So when the school year opened, we had 4 applications at his site, and some people got a little bit worried, and he said, don't worry, they're going to come. And so, and sure enough, they're already up to 16 and they have a few more applications coming in. And what's really neat, I wanted to highlight about this principal is that he walks down the road to where a majority of his kids live, and he does like what he calls a walking school bus. So he walks with his kids all the way to school every single morning and every afternoon. And I think it's just really neat how he really knows his community. Next slide, please. The next day we were at Papua Elementary School, and we went to go see a different EOEL classroom. This one was established back in 2014. And here's where we had a conversation about workforce development initiatives and the Early Childhood Educator Stipend Program with the Senate Committee on Ways and Means. And so we had really in-depth conversations about where to target recruitment, how to target recruitment, the progression of credits from the community college into the university system, where stipends should be focused, and just really trying to brainstorm workforce issues. And so tough, good conversations, but a lot to think about. And so we're already trying to sit with that in our office at this time. Next page. Thank you. Oh yeah, thank you. So in terms of our legislative proposal about the contracting of facilities, so we got some feedback, and so we're working through the feedback of some suggested adjustments. And so it's due back to the governor's office for review on November 13th. Next slide. So today we actually received notification that from Budget and Finance, the recommendation is to not fund our 2 requests at this time, the Navigator system and the FTE that we asked for. But nothing we already have has been identified to be pulled back. So there's no addition there. What they're suggesting is no additional appropriations. And so there is an opportunity to appeal this decision, but we're actually having an internal dialogue. We just got this notification today to determine how to best proceed. But we are also interested in what the board's thoughts around this are, because if we want to submit an appeal, it's by Monday the 13th. Oh, it's not October 13th. No. October 13th. No, November 13th. But to also keep in mind that the state is prioritizing responses to Maui, and we anticipate additional revenue projections to decrease. And so I guess I would like to ask for feedback from the board. The request is to not fund our current budget request. And so I guess what does the board think about an appeal or non-appeal? And I'm just like, it doesn't have to be like a decision. I'm just wondering.
We can't
make a decision.
take any action on it anyway, because it wasn't on the agenda, except
we just got it today. That's why. So I just wanted to let people know. Or how about I don't ask that question if we can't do it? Okay, how about let's not ask that question? So anyway.
If anybody has any comments or observations they'd like to share, that certainly they can do with you
Yeah,
with
yeah.
regard to this decision
Okay.
in the legislature, but we cannot take any
Action on it. Yeah, yeah.
that.
Okay. Yeah. I knew it, like, I couldn't do like a vote or anything, but I also didn't want to like not share it just because it came up today. So, okay, so how about this is I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. Well, I think we, you know, if you're looking for some guidance,
Mhm.
we supported
Yeah,
initially the request.
yeah.
So if internally the staff feels that this is worth pursuing,
Mhm.
I would assume the board would not say no,
Okay,
since we had already approved.
okay,
That's kind of the guidance I think you're going to have to
okay,
follow in this case.
okay.
If anybody has any searing thoughts you'd like the staff to consider, from the board's perspective, please go ahead and share them at this point, and we can certainly do that because it is part of your report.
Yeah, I would just suggest, I think one criteria, Yuko, as your team thinks about this, is how critical is this request this year vis-a-vis Maui response? You know, so that would be the only thing I would suggest, and maybe okay to wait out a year.
Good point, Gary. Anyone else have any observations or comments?
Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, go,
Okay.
Kevin.
Yeah.
So I wanted to highlight that we are happy to bring on a new business management officer. She has her associate's, bachelor's, master's in business administration. She's adjunct professor. She actually worked in the Small Business Development Center. She did accounting manager and an administrative director at in New Mexico and a National Center for Frontier Communities. She was a graduate assistant, and something that was also interesting about her is that she was involved in the advisory committees for the establishment of the New Mexico Early Childhood Education Care Department that just recently opened. And she actually introduced a resource for home-based childcare and smaller programs that's actually now being supported by the state and offered to Mexico programs for free. So we're really excited to bring on Kelly as our new business management officer. We have not yet been able to set a start date for OTM, but they're working on all of those pieces. But she's got great experience in business management and also in terms of the early care and education system. So we're really excited to bring her on.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So, gosh. Alohi, do you want to go really quickly about PDGB5?
Yeah, can do. Can you hear me okay? I'm gonna keep my video off because I'm having internet issues. So if I go out, please you go take over. Aloha everyone. So I just want to say a few things for PDGB5 for a few of our main activities. Overall for the grant, we still are pending fiscal approval of our year 2 non-compete application. It was submitted in October, and so we're still looking for that fiscal approval, and then maybe next year we can share what we plan to do year 2. It's very similar to our year 1 and trying to sustain some of the activities that we started in year 1. For our activity 3, we initiated in a conversation with a vendor to create a PDGB5 website. So this is where you'll be able to find more information or just all the information regarding the actual PDGB5 grant or things related to the PDGB5 grant renewal. And then we also were able to support a family event on Kauai. For our activity 4 of workforce, we were able to join a national community of practice with the Workforce Center. And so we have a few people from Hawaii that's part of cohort B, which is developing wage and salary scales. And next slide, please. For program and quality improvement, which is our activity 5, our class observation has begun. To date, we recruited 30 providers that have signed up. Our target is 50. So if you do know anybody or you may be interested or you may have an employee that's interested, please connect with Kim Gibb at Hawaii P20 or myself at YOEL. We have also the University of College of Ed has also started to gather feedback from workforce members on our Hawaii Careers for Young Children's draft career framework. So this aligns with the unifying framework of early childhood educators 1, 2, and 3 from the NAEYC, power to the profession framework. So that's it. Oh, and we also got to meet with our evaluators and had a few different meetings already to get them entwined in the work over the next couple of years. Any questions?
Thank you, Lucky,
Okay,
and
thank you.
that's the end of our session. I know I'm way over time, but
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. A meaty report, that's for sure, with a lot to talk about. Next item on the agenda was a report of the subcommittee, but Carrie, I'm willing to switch the order if the timing is better for you folks to go right now.
Sure. Happy to do that. So Heidi Wu, who was planning to give this presentation, took time off this week after the all network meeting, much deserved. So it's me giving the presentation.
Okay.
So I will share screen. I'm going to read from the notes because Jennifer and Heidi put, oh, if somebody could please enable participant screen sharing, that'd be awesome.
Will you be able to send it to me? There's an issue. Is it a big file? Can you send it to me?
Sure. Let me create a PDF and then I'll send it. And I'm going to read their notes because it's their presentation.
Okay.
And then I can start talking. Is it Kevin that's setting this up?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sending it to your email, okay? Okay, hopefully you will get that soon. So Bob, I don't know, with the slight delay, do we want to flip it back on the agenda?
Again? Yeah, Lynette. Yeah. Don't worry. Don't look at me. I just run the place and fun thing. Something went on. Something went on. I don't know. Yeah, see the power went on. It seems like the most epic power.
Yeah.
Oh, this is it's just the system, I don't know. Okay, I'll be gone.
And YouTube, they can still hear you? Can they still hear you though? Because that sounds like.
Carrie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't think so. Oh, there we go. We got people.
So Bob, do you want to switch it back while Keith waits for, or not Keith, sorry, Kevin waits for the presentation? Sorry, Bob, can you hear me?
Carrie, I can hear you.
Oh, thank you, Ben. I was just gonna
I'm
put in
not
chat.
sure
Can
if they
anyone
can
hear
hear
me?
us.
Harry,
Yeah,
we kind
I'm
of
not sure
had
if
a
they can hear us.
technical issue here. We lost some of our power.
Oh, shoot.
So we're just operating on our own laptops right now.
Okay.
They're trying to fix it.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Tara, is it Tara or Tara?
It's Tara. Hold on. I'm trying to get my volume up here.
Okay. Do you want to ask Bob if he wants to switch the agenda back to the original, and we can wait until Kevin gets the slides?
Sure. Let me grab him here. Bob, are you to turn your volume up on yours at all? Can you hear her?
Okay.
Yes.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, y'all, that was a pretty dramatic entry into my presentation. It's not that exciting. I should say it's very exciting. That wasn't the reaction I was expecting though. I can hear you. It's a little bit garbled. I can hear you.
Easily connected to different. Yeah, you just do what you're doing. Okay, your back is closed.
Ironically, I chose a Star Wars quote for this meeting to end with. And all of that echo sounds a little Star Wars-ish. Bob, would you like me to begin? Meeting. Bob, would you like me to begin?
Is asking if you want her to begin.
Oh, I can hardly hear her. Can you hear?
I hear something from somewhere.
Can you guys hear me?
Carrie, I'm waiting for Kevin to say it's okay to go.
Okay.
Can somebody talk? That's not here. Hello? Hello? Still coming on here? I can be the host, Kevin. Can you just give me access and then you can just shut it?
Okay.
You want me to log out and log back in? my co-host,
Yes.
be on agenda, and then I'm turning my volume on. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks, Ben. Thank you, Ben.
Can you talk one more time? Just for the people in our, you can, for the people in our room?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
How come you have sound though? Can you? Yeah, we can hear you. So let me, I hear sound coming out over here. Okay. Okay, sorry, we're trying to like fix ourselves, but we can.
This is hybrid.
Okay, here we go. Do you want to?
Awesome. Thank you, Yuko. That was a very long dramatic pause before a presentation. So I just want to share, we're very, very excited that Keiki Central is now officially ready. It's been years in the making. We did a launch several years ago, and it was just clunky and it wasn't working very well. And so we went back to the drawing board, hired Site Savvy, who works with AUW 211s across the nation to do the pullouts. And so the goal of Keiki Central is to make sure that families have the fewest number of clicks to resources and programs that can support them and their Keiki. It also is designed for our providers when they're referring families, that they can go into Keiki Central. They recognize that a family has a need. They can find it in here and do a quick referral for that family. And so this is a soft launch. We know that there's going to be a lot of, there will probably be a lot of glitches, especially in terms of what programs are listed in the AUW 211 database and what are not. And so I'm going to just step through. Next slide, please. What this is all about. And so again, why is this important? We recognize that programs and services that support our youngest Keiki are all over the place. They're across our state departments, and they're, you know, throughout over 100 of our nonprofits at a minimum. And so we wanted to figure out a way of having one stop where families could go to find the resources and services that they need. There are many ways. So yeah, next slide. There are many ways that you can search for on the site. It's keikicentral.org. There's many ways that you can search for resources. One is there's a drop-down menu. And if I could screen share, I would show you how to do it. But if you go to keikicentral.org, you can see a drop-down menu that prompts families with questions. And that makes it really easy. So I think there's like 13 questions, and we align those questions similarly to the way Washington State had their questions on their pullout website. You can also search by zip code, which is really nice. And you can search by the headings. So if you scroll down, Yuko, I'll show you the new site here. So this is the new site by categories. And you'll see pregnancy and delivery. So just take a look at those. Where this gets complicated for Keiki prenatal to 8 is around the childcare and preschool piece. And the reason that it's complicated is because we don't have one stop for childcare and preschools. You know, in other states, the Childcare Resource and Referral Agency for the state is the one stop for childcare and preschool. That's not the case here in Hawaii. We have EOEL, we have charter preschools, we have Patch, and we have our early learning, family child interaction learning programs. And they're all, you know, in different pieces and in different sites. And so we're trying to get this right. We did get a lot of help. I want to thank, you know, everybody that has provided input on the headings, the subheadings, trying to figure out, and all of the families that have helped provide feedback on the types of words that they use when they search for programs and services. You know, the words that families use and the words that our providers use are sometimes different. For example, childcare and daycare. And so we want to make sure that this is really family friendly and that the words that we're using are familiar words to them. And so that's hard because then those words have to actually match the AUW terms on the backside of the data, if that makes sense. So we know that it's going to be clunky, but we're really excited about it. I do want to share too that AUW 211, what the reason that they were chosen as the partner on this project is because of the infrastructure that they have to support a database like this. And they not only have support on the database, but they also have language support in 150 languages. So for families to call in and get the support that they need, they have all the language support. They have text support, email support, and website. So we wanted to make sure that our families had all of those options when looking for resources. So if you can go to next slide, please. So you can see how when you look for like family planning, education, for example, family planning, you'll see it'll come up on the maps. So again, it's all mapped as well. And so this should also help inform us on where we have deserts in certain types of programs. And be able to see that islands wide in different areas. Next slide, please. So what's next? And this is the most important part, I think, of this entire presentation, is that we need to take this on kind of a walkabout. And there's going to be two big questions. And I have a Google form that I can't share right now, but I will, Bob, I'll send you this PowerPoint presentation with the notes so that everyone can actually see the notes that are attached to the slides. I'll also send you the feedback form. So there's a feedback form that's been created to collect feedback on usability of the site. So again, this is a soft launch. We don't want to be advertising this with communities until everybody, until people feel more comfortable with it. And there's going to be a few things that come up for you. One is, my program and is not listed. And so if your program is not listed, there's a link for you to fill out the information for your program. Now, it's really important in AUW 211 database that all the sites get included so that when families are searching for a program in Hilo, for example, even though the organization is a Honolulu-based organization but has a program in Hilo, that Hilo program gets listed. So it needs to be by program. And you'll see in the feedback form what that looks like. And then we have a few other questions that AUW is collecting on usability of the site. And so as we're getting that feedback, we're going to be making the changes, and Site Savvy is still on contract to make all of those changes to the interface. So that's really important. And something like this is only as good as the programs that are participating and putting their information in. And so it's really important that when you're putting your information in, that it's thorough, that you're using keywords that are familiar in the database. So if you can go one slide back up that shows, I'm sorry, one more. Yep. It would be really helpful in your description when you're describing your program to use some of these keywords, because then you're going to know that your program will come up under the right search, if that makes sense. So the taxonomies have to match the searches. And we're going to continue to iterate this. I just want to show so much gratitude for all of the people that have helped to inform this. It's been a lot of different people over 8 years. And most recently, really helpful feedback from the Hawaii Healthcare Association. Reviewed it, looking at some of the healthcare links in here. And we need some feedback. I think one of the parts that's hard here, and if you look, I'm going to just orientate you because of who's in this audience. If you look under public pre-K, you'll see a link to EOEL public pre-K, and it goes right to EOEL website. It also goes directly to the Charter Public Pre-K website because that's where the applications are. You'll see on the private childcare preschool side, you'll see a link that goes directly to Patch for childcare preschool and referrals. And so we did that just so we could try to get people directly to the entities where the applications are and where the contacts are for those programs. There's an opportunity to perhaps create something on the front page of the website that describes more of the nuances of the different types of programs. And I'm looking at Melody. Melody, we put family child interaction learning programs under early learning and professional development. And I don't know if that's the right place, but that's the type of feedback we would love to have as to where it really should fit. Yeah, so we're super excited. I'm hoping that this will be helpful for everybody. It is a snapshot of our system of care for our youngest Keiki. And if you all can please participate. So if you go to the last slide, Heidi, there's the Keiki Central feedback form, which I'll provide a link to when I send all the information out to Bob. If you guys can please all take a look, we really value the Early Learning Board representation and who sits here. And I'm very confident that we are missing Neighbor Island programs and services in AUW. And so we do want to make sure that, as many of the resources that are available, we want them all listed in this database. The other good thing I just want to share is we have an opportunity. We're paying AUW a monthly fee to be able to access the data. So we'll be able to know what families are looking for, what they're going in to look for. We can also tell once they see a resource in there, if they go and click on it. We know that they have then followed up with getting more information. We can get information on some of the intake information that AUW collects in call-in conversations. So that will be helpful too. And we'll figure out kind of a tempo of sharing with you all what we're learning through that data collection. I think we're looking at quarterly data polls as we're moving forward. So are there any questions or comments? The other challenge, I'll share another challenge, and it's just the nature of our system, is you will find when you search for preschools, any preschool can provide their information directly to AUW 211 directly, and it'll pop up. The downside to that is we want the referrals going to Patch, right? But we have no way, AUW has no way of controlling so even in their current data system outside of Keiki Central, when you Google and search for preschool, you'll see all the Patch offices come up, but then you'll also see a list of individual preschools that list themselves. So it's clunky in those ways.
Karen, I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anyone have anything they wish to bring up? Thank you, and thank you for waiting to get to this place where we could finally share.
Yeah, and I just
thought we were going to make it more timely with the agenda. The technology has a way of interfering with life, I think, as it did in this particular case. So, before we close out this section.
Only final thing is AUW does not have funding for outreach and communications. And so it's been hard for them to get the word out about AUW 211. They try to integrate it into a lot of different things that they're doing, but we are going to be doing a pretty big communications outreach. Once this feels a little bit more massaged, we are going to be doing a reach out to families and to communities, and so that they know about this resource. And so if you all, want your networks to know more about it, we'll make sure that we get you the communications materials and how to use the site, where to go if there's things that you see in there. One of the things we heard from families previously was, we want to see music programs that we can take our kids to. We want to see the gymnastics programs. We want to see, some of these other types of programs. We can, through AUW's rules, we can list those if they have a sliding fee scale. If they don't have a sliding fee scale, we can't list those. And so that's the only criteria to make sure that there's equitable access.
Thank you, Karen. And you'll be sending that information to me, and I can send it out to both of us, correct?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, let's get back to item 5, the subcommittee reports. You all received a copy of the draft of the governance subcommittees.
Just for sound. It's just for sound. That's all.
Sound isn't there?
Oh, wait, maybe it's coming from.
It's okay.
Oh.
Can you guys hear me?
Sorry, I thought it was red.
No, everybody's saying.
Oh, okay, okay.
Thank you. You received the report of the governance subcommittee. Matt is not able to be with us today, so I'm following his instructions for what he wishes to share with you. The information here we wanted to emphasize came from basically 3 sources, primarily from the evaluation we did in the spring of the director, and you'll note that particularly with the emphasis on the building strong relationships with the private sector. That was a goal that was generally shared amongst a number of people in the evaluation. You'll also notice that there are items from Act 210 that have been built in here that are ongoing related to the expansion in particular, and issues around teachers and quality teachers in the settings for the expansion. There also, we had discussion with Yuko as the director for items that she would like to have incorporated as well. One of them is the item under advocacy and communication 2.1 and 2.2 related to the P20 attainment goal. And then also the inclusion of a new area related to the exploration of the creation of a parent council, similar to the types of Head Start and early Head Start programs sponsored at this point, to discover a way to ensure that the parent and family voice is provided for in discussions and policy development within the early learning board. So this is an exploratory goal, but one to come back to the board with recommendations for consideration. And then obviously some related to the PDGB5, particularly with regard to the statewide needs assessment. The items in red under sheets are the ones that are the actual goals, which are the measurements incorporated. The governance subcommittee meets again on November 17th. Matt is inviting the board members to offer any feedback for the subcommittee to consider, and any additional objectives and measures they would like the subcommittee to consider to be provided to him by the close of business on Thursday, November 16th. And then he will present any of that information to the subcommittee. The final recommendations from the subcommittee will be presented to the board for approval, for discussion and approval at the December meeting. So that's basically the report from the subcommittee, asking for your input with regard to the draft goals that have been presented to you. Are there any questions about the report or what's to come forward in the future? I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm going to move to item 7, and I'm trying to be mindful of the amount of time we have here. We had said at the last meeting, and actually the preceding one, that we would keep the Maui Early Childhood Status updates on the board agenda as a standing item for the time being. And I have not heard any additional reports from our 2 representatives on Maui to include, but wanted to call to everyone's attention, if you didn't see it, the Civil Beat article that appeared on November 2nd by Megan Tagami, which really is an interesting update of the status after 3 months of the early childhood situation on Maui, particularly with regard to the Lahaina area. 2 things I think that are particularly notable are the childcare spaces shortage that existed before the Maui fire have been intensified by what we have what has resulted from the closures of the Maui fire. You may recall that some 255 childcare seats are filled, and the two primary service providers at the moment here in November appear to be Maui Prep and the preschool in Kapalua, both of which are at capacity at this point. The offering that Kama'aina Kids have been providing in Honolulu ended in mid-September, and those families have pretty much been located in other settings across Maui. Some interesting comments by providers are provided in the article, and one particularly poignant one about really related to what do we do now? Do we find a temporary place to open up and offer services to parents? Do we wait a bit to go back to our original setting when we can have access to determine what is salvageable, if anything, and then proceed from there? So it doesn't sound as if the situation has improved a great deal since the report of the last month. And people are still struggling to locate the spaces that they might provide for their children. Two highlights, I think, that came out are IEMA's note that the nonprofit daycares and preschools can apply for public assistance grants if they've also applied for an SBA loan, and of course the DHS Child Care Subsidy Program, which was announced in late October. And currently there are approximately 110 applications received, and those subsidies would run through the next 12 months, is my understanding. That's as much as I gleaned from reading that article, if some of you are interested. Anyone else has anything to add in terms of updates with regard to the situation on Maui because of your association? As board members, please feel free to offer any updates that you may have. So anyone who has anything they would like to share?
Bob, I can just quickly share. I may have shared it I wasn't there last month. I may have shared this previously, I can't remember, but we did have over Labor Day weekend, 15 early childhood partners put forward sequenced and coordinated solutions for meeting some of the needs in West Maui, and still waiting to find out if those funds come through. I know the state was awarded 17 million, and it has not determined where those funds will go. We are shopping those requests and those proposals around to other funders and other funding opportunities because the need is immediate.
Thank you, Carrie. Anyone else have any updates to share?
Hi, I'm Tanya Enrico with the Department of Human Services. I'm in the Child Care Regulation Program Office, and Dana, Luca, and I visited our Maui child care providers a few times in the last month. We met with providers and offered a sort of like talk story to get an idea of what their immediate needs are. We did also talk with the Department of Public Works to see what kind of maybe exemptions for building that we could get to try to facilitate erecting temporary structures to help, build up some classrooms more quickly. So we did learn that the mayor issued an emergency proclamation. So there is some relief where they would, if centers wanted or had the land space to erect a temporary structure, that would be exempt from their building codes, But the problem with that is that once the emergency proclamation ends, then the structure would no longer be in code, and so they would have to remove it. So that wouldn't work because we don't know how long the emergency proclamation will last. And once it ends, then the children again will not have a space. We know that most of the need is on the west side. And so we visited there. And we also visited Maui Prep. That was mentioned in the article. And I think we talked to them about increasing their space, but it had to go through their board. And I think they told us on November 2nd when we were there that they have a wait list of 3. We know that St. Anthony's in Wailuku absorbs 6 children, but the problem is that, families are still on the west side in the, the temporary housing, in the hotels. And so right now they're not even sure where they're going to be from one day to the next. So we don't really have a concrete idea of how many spaces we need and exactly where we need it. So we're continuing talks with our providers in Maui. We know that there's FEMA monies available, and there's the Office of Child Care. Someone from their emergency division was there also meeting with us and the city and county to see what kind of extra funding or assistance we can get to try to get more spaces available sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. One of the other things I thought was interesting in the article from the headmaster of Maui Prep brought up the issue also of workforce. They want to expand, but they're not sure that they can get a teacher to help the school. So again, that issue is everywhere that would work. Anyone else have anything to add to the conversation and update us about that? I don't see anything in the chat, so we move to the second opportunity for public comment to be offered at this point. Are there any public comments to be shared? I don't see any. Are there any member updates?
Bob, I have one from HICC. So there was a WICHE salary study that was conducted this year. And so there will be salary increase requests for early intervention, which is super exciting. So if the early learning board would be willing to support that, and in the next legislative session, that would be great.
Thanks, Gary. Anyone else have any updates? Seeing none, we'll move to the final item on the agenda, which is to review our outcomes for this meeting. First of all, we're excited to be able to welcome Ian Okamoto, Tara Castrovinci, and Kelly Benoit to the staff to fill critical positions that we have been waiting to have filled, and looking forward to working with all of you and the opportunity to learn from you as we work together. Oh, Christina, you have an update. Let's go to you first.
Well, I didn't speak up because I actually saw Erin had her hand raised, and so she was first for the update. And then, sorry, it got a little out of order. Did you still want to update, Erin?
Oh, thanks, Justina. I was just gonna type it instead, but thank you. Is that okay, Bob?
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. So
it's okay. I realized my hand thing is brown and it kind of blended in with the background. So it's all good. Thank you. Thank you, Justina. I was just gonna share that since the that Aim High is hosting free and available via Zoom ongoing support spaces to providers in the 0 to 5 arena. And I kind of meant to say that in the Maui section, I guess, because it was really intended for people who are providing direct services to our early childhood arena. It's on Zoom, and we're doing it in the app early evening so that hopefully people can attend on their own accord. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say. I can send the information out as well.
Okay, thank you. And sorry to have ignored you. I just couldn't see you.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Let's do that.
Thank you. And I just wanted to share an update that there were several of us from the philanthropic sector that were in Washington, D.C. last week. And it was kind of a two-part meeting. The first part was with the Early Childhood Funders Collaborative, which is a national organization. And I really wanted to highlight that one of our very own, so Napua Rose Hill, who's with us, was elected to be part of that national board for the Early Childhood Funders Collaborative, which I think will bring in a great voice that represents our indigenous philanthropic sector for Hawaii. And then the second part of those 2 days, we had great representation from Hawaii that included Kamehameha schools. There was also the Samuel and Mary Castle, with Al Castle being there, and myself. And we also had Sean Kanaiapuni from Partners in Development Foundation, who was there really sharing about some of the work that was happening here in Hawaii, and she did a really wonderful job. The next couple of days were also focused on early relational health, which is comes alongside the work that we've been working on here with the Promising Minds Initiative. Some people talk about infant early childhood mental health, and others are finding the term early relational health as being kind of a nice entry point. So there's a funders group focus on early relational health, and just wanted to highlight, I guess, two things that are kind of interest. One is there's like a new policy document out around state leadership and policy for early relational health, and I'll pop the link in chat. And the other that I found interesting is that they're going to be soliciting, the National Academy of Sciences has a children and youth board, and they're doing a big consensus study that will get kicked off in 2024. And they're kind of scoping the project and looking at who would be part of that committee for next year. And it's going to focus on early relational health. And my hope is we may have someone who gets recommended to be part of that committee from Hawaii. So I'll send out more information once I have it. But if you're interested in learning more about what the National Academy of Sciences is going to be looking at for that work, feel free to email me or just type a message in chat.
Thank you, Justina. Erin, I see you had one more update.
Yes, I just remember when Justina was talking that recently there was for home visiting, there are a few models that are in the state, and there's recently the Parents as Teachers Conference. So it was a national conference that many providers in our state went to. And I'm just so excited to say that and share that one of Hawaii's very own, Michelle Janosko, was awarded, the Parents as Teachers Parent Educator of the Year award. So I did want to just share how excited we should be to have such wonderful home visiting staff in our state. And she's a Maui girl, so she's been with Kikioka Aina for many years. And so just very proud of her and her accomplishments. And I do hope that if you do see her around, any of you, that you are able to give her congratulations as well.
Thank you. That's exciting. I have to say that it makes my heart feel good that we are recognizing the strength that exists on this island and the resources we have here to share with the mainland rather than the other way around. So exciting. Thank you all. And I'll share with you too, as an offshoot, Al Castle has been just raving about the presentation by our Hawaii representatives in DC. So exciting to see. We know what we're doing as hard as it is to do it. All right. Before I move on, make sure, are there any other member updates? Okay, I don't see any, so let's go back to reviewing the agenda outcomes. Once again, welcome to our new people. We will be adding much strength to our EOEL office. The second outcome is to consider the suggestion of incorporating a public pre-K item as a standing agenda item. And we'll take a look at that and get back to you. The third, I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to capture quite as well as I would like, but it has to do with considerations around the public pre-K expansion rollout with regard to relationships to the roadmap, with regard to the workforce, particularly in the private sector, with regard to the issue of family choice when we're expanding public pre-K and community needs as we look at expansion. Those are 4 issues I pulled out of our conversation that we need to keep on our working agenda for conversation. And then finally, the soft launching of KT Central and the request by Carrie for checking the ktcentral.org site out and looking at it from the perspective of the feedback form that will be provided and issues related to both usability of the site, but also reviewing, updating, or adding programs and services that reflect our particular agencies or recommending that others do likewise. Those are the outcomes that I pulled from the meeting. Does anyone have any others that we should include? I don't see any, so Carrie, if you have some more good words to leave us with, return to you.
Sure. So this is for all the adults in the room. You're just a child in a mask by Snoke, The Last Jedi.
And don't take our masks off.
There you
Thanks.
go.
We will see everyone in December. I hope those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving enjoy a special holiday with friends. And I hope as we continue to watch this world that seems a bit upside down, that we can all maintain our own calm and reserves and resilience because of the important work we do, which is working in a field of hope and dreams. Aloha, everyone.